Tolkien, the movie, it encapsulates the early formative years of John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, and his early life, his influences, and the beginnings of his relationship with Edith, and he's going through his experiences in the First World War, leading up to the inspiration behind The Hobbit, and what eventually brought him to put pen to paper and write "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit." It was quite daunting, first of all, writing a movie for Fox Searchlight, so expectations are high straight away. And the fact that it's Tolkien, and writing the name Tolkien and putting words in his mouth. And also the fact that it's period and, quite British upper class, which, I'm Irish, but, not too far geographically from there, but removed by, a lifetime of culture and a whole century almost. So trying to find that voice, was intimidating. But once I made a connection to the character, which came easily enough, I like to think that Tolkien would have approved of what I did, because I tried to be true to the man, more than the icon, and I could relate to him in that, he was a committed Catholic. I'm a practicing Catholic. He had 4 kids. I've got 4 kids. He worried about his retirement, sometimes I worry about mine, so that was kind of my way into him, on a very micro level. I hope they're moved, by an affecting love story and, by a man who challenged impossible odds, not to do something extraordinary in life, but to find the peace within himself and sit down and, raise a beautiful family and create great art. And become immortal through it.
Well, it's a story of friendship, and it's a story of the fellowships that he himself experienced that we can then see in his mythologies and in his stories, his writings, and it's a story of love. It's a beautiful love story, which is, 2 orphans, in this case Nicholas Hoult and Lily Collins, they meet, they become this unity, a friendship, and becomes a forbidden love story, and then becomes an eternal love story. And it's a story of creation.
Well, I don't know, it's very flattering.
Well, I think, it is a vision of him. It's not like a documentary. It is a strong imagination of his emotional truth, who he is, how he felt during those years of, you would say, his darkness. And I think it's a beautiful... it was a beautiful process in that sense, that you try to be very true to the character, you try to find the most cinematic and dramatic moments of his life and put them on the cinema, on the screen. And I think it was a heavy process at the same time, because you are doing about a real-life character, but also it's a fan process. I'm a Tolkien fan, so there's something beautiful about that. Well, they are blossoming at the moment. That's wonderful. As a director, I've worked a lot with younger actors, and they're not young, but they are at that age when they can just enjoy the camera, they enjoy the medium. They're intelligent beings, they are talented, sensitive beings, and they can just explode on that screen. And I think they really, really make the love story shine like it's supposed to. I think like at some point, like how Tolkien and his wife's Edith's love story did shine. I think the inspiration, there's something really beautiful about this fellowship of these 4 boys, and they want to inspire each other, they want to change the world with art, they're poets, they are composers, they're painters, they are helping each other and inspiring each other. And I think when I look at the film, I feel like I want to be with those boys. I want to feel that inspiration that they're having. So I hope that the audience, when they see the film, they walk out, they call a friend and say, how about let's share some stories, let's enjoy life, because it is about enjoying life.
I have. Oh, I loved it. It's a wonderful film. Not a fantasy, as you know. It's a biopic about Tolkien's early life, his love affairs. Very romantic film about friendship and love and World War I. I don't know. Hopefully, they know what they're in for, and they're not expecting, dragons or hobbits. Because it's a story about Tolkien the man, although there are hints of what his inspiration might have been. So I think they'll enjoy it. I certainly did. He was a huge inspiration. Tolkien is the all modern fantasy, epic fantasy, derives from Tolkien. His fantasy certainly existed before him, for hundreds of years, but Tolkien's work in Lord of the Rings really redefined fantasy, and myself and all other modern fantasists are really working in the shadow of the mountain that he built. I first encountered his work when I was, 12, 13 years old, and it blew me away.
So it's
And
a lifelong love.
I reread it every few years. Lord of the Rings in particular. That was definitely more influential than like Leaf by Niggle. He has this one magnificent work, and the Silmarillion and the Hobbit as well. So they're amazing.
Actually, we had some old, especially for the war stuff, we have some old Japanese movies we looked at. And then the director wanted to have the cinematography to be alive. So we had a lot of movements in general. It was amazing. I mean, they are amazing. I mean, all of them are brilliant, from Derek Jacobi to Lily and Nicholas, and and all the boys are wonderful.
This film follows J.R.R. Tolkien, who is the writer that we know of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and it starts in his formidable years as when he was an orphan with his brother, and when he meets this girl Edith Bratt in the house that he lives in, who's also an orphan. And it details his relationships with his friends, the relationship with Edith, and how his experience in World War I, all of those influenced the characters that one day became the stories that we know and love so well. It was wonderful. Unfortunately, there's little information on her because a woman of that time in her social standing as an orphan wouldn't have much written about her, unfortunately. But it was great. I didn't know she existed before this story, and she was the inspiration and muse for so many of his characters, specifically the elven characters. And I loved all the stories growing up, and I loved Peter Jackson's films. So to play the character that helped inspire those was a real treat. Come on, he's amazing. He's so talented, he's so lovely, down to earth, and just really fun to play around with in the scenes. And Dome is beyond passionate, and so it was really nice to get to all collaborate together. Something that I love about this film is that it deals with the idea of soulmates and how that can kind of come to fruition, whether it's a romantic soulmate or a friendship soulmate. And, Tolkien's relationships with his TCBS crew were so important, as well as his with Edith. And I think you never know how much you're going to inspire someone, and vice versa. And soulmates can kind of inspire you from years to come. And in this case, end up creating these books that everyone knows and loves today.
It's basically the formative years of J.R.R. Tolkien. He was orphaned at a young age, and it's him about finding friendship and love, and then his experiences during World War I and all the things that inspired him to create his masterpieces, essentially. It was wonderful getting into character. I was a fan primarily, so figuring out how to then reapproach his work, knowing more about him, and then kind of put the puzzle together of how I imagined he would be in those early years of his life, and how that fits into this story. So it was a real pleasure and honor, to get to spend time researching something that I love. As I say, he lost his mum at a young age, and she was someone who kind of inspired his love of language. So that's something he's pursuing, but he's also, because of that, forced to grow up very fast. He has a lot of responsibility, and then he finds these great friendships, but then loses them. He falls in love with Edith Bratt, the character that Lily Collins plays, but can't be with her because of the circumstances he's in. So there's a lot for him to overcome and be influenced by. She's wonderful. She's such a brilliant actress, and brought so much to Edith as a character. She was something that she sparkles. She's cheeky. You can see how Edith inspired Tolkien to write his elven characters, his elven princesses. So that's something that essentially you can see why when Lily plays that character. Any stories from set? It's kind of always a difficult question. The World War I sequences were very intense to film, but apart from that, it was a great set to be on. It was very fun and good people. So Dome is very passionate. The director, he has a great understanding of the character and also the language element. So occasionally he'd be screaming out Finnish words that I didn't understand, but repeating to try and create the languages that Tolkien created.